Hi, today I'm going to talk about the Moors murders. Before I get into other parts of the case, I'll explain what a moor is in case you don't know. A moor is an open, uncultivated land that has a low growing vegetation. The moor in the Moors murders was the Saddleworth Moor in northern England. That's where Ian Brady and Myra Hindley buried the bodies of some of their young victims. The moor was remote and desolate, which made it an ideal location for concealing their crimes. The murders were committed between 1963 and 1965 in the United Kingdom. It was pretty shocking for the nation. The perpetrators, Maya Hindley and Ian Brady, targeted children and teenagers. They lured them to their deaths on the desolate moors near Manchester. The murders were characterized by their brutality and the cold, calculated nature of the killers. Their partnership was marked by a shared fascination with sadism and power. Brady was often seen as the mastermind. He was deeply influenced by Nazi ideology and criminal literature. Hindley was captivated by Brady and became a participant in the crimes. Their notoriety stems from not only the gruesome nature of the acts they committed, but also the betrayal of societal trust, as they seemed outwardly unremarkable, yet had such violence in their crimes. Ian Brady was born on January 2nd, 1938 in Glasgow, Scotland. He was raised by his foster parents after being abandoned by his mother. Brady showed antisocial behavior from a young age. His formative years were spent in poverty-stricken areas where he developed a fascination with criminal literature and Nazi ideas, which shaped his worldview and later actions. Myra was born on July 23rd, 1942 in Manchester, England. She was raised in a working-class family and her early life was difficult. Her father, Bob Hindley, was known for his violent temper, which had an influence on Myra's perception of authority and power. Despite these challenges, Hindley was described as a bright student even though she struggled with the constraints of her environment. Her grandmother played a large role in her upbringing, giving Myra some stability in the family chaos. The two met in 1961 at Millward's Merchandising, where they both worked. Their relationship evolved into a toxic partnership fueled by fantasies of domination and violence. Brady's charismatic yet manipulative personality charmed Hindley, who became more complicit in his wrongdoings. Together, they indulged in mutual obsessions with sadism, which led to their involvement in the Moors murders. Their bond was characterized by a blend of affection and cruelty, as Hindley was looking for validation from Brady's approval, while Brady found an eager accomplice in Hindley. The murders involved the killings of five victims. The first victim, Pauline Reed, was a 16-year-old girl who disappeared on her way to a dance in July 1963. Myra lured her into a car under the pretense of help finding a lost glove, leading her to the Saddleworth Moor where Ian Brady attacked and murdered her. The next victim was John Kilbride, who was 12 years old when he was murdered. He was abducted in November 1963. Brady and Haley offered him a ride home from a market, only to take him to the moor where he was sexually assaulted and killed. The third victim is Keith Bennett. He was also 12 years old. He vanished on his way to his grandmother's house. He was also taken to the moor and killed. Leslie Ann Downey was the fourth victim. She was just 10 years old when she was killed. She was abducted from a fairground on Boxing Day, 1964. She was taken to Hindley's home, where she was photographed, tortured, and killed. Her murder was particularly disturbing because there were audio recordings that captured her final moments. The last known victim was Edward Evans. He was 17 when he was killed. He was lured from a Manchester railway station in October 1965, and he was brutally murdered with an axe at Brady's and Hindley's shared residence. Brady and Hindley used charm and deceit to gain their victims' trust. They would then abduct, sexually assault, and murder their victims. Their bodies were buried on the Saddleworth Moor. Being a remote area, it kind of symbolized their desire for control and concealment. Psychologically, both Hindley and Brady exhibited traits of sadism and manipulation. Brady's fascination with power and violence drove the murders, while Hindley sought his validation and became an active participant in the crimes. Their crimes were acts of physical brutality but also psychological terror, reflecting deep-seated desires for domination and infamy. The initial investigation of the Moors murders brought a lot of challenges. The disappearances of the young victims occurred over several years. It made it difficult for law enforcement to connect them as a part of a single pattern. At the time, missing children cases were often treated as isolated incidents, and the lack of advanced forensic technology hindered efforts to link the crimes even more. A breakthrough occurred with the murder of Edward Evans on October 1965. David Smith, who was Henley's brother-in-law, witnessed Brady killing Evans with an axe at their shared home. Horrified, Smith reported the crime to police, providing a crucial eyewitness account that led to the arrest of both Brady and Henley. The testimony was pivotal as it directly caught them in the act. During the investigation, police discovered key evidence at their home, including photos and audio recordings. These materials were incriminating in the case of Leslie Ann Downey, as they documented her abduction and torture. The recordings captured Downey's pleas for help, giving undeniable proof of the couple's involvement in the murder. The combination of Smith's testimony and the physical evidence gathered from the scene allowed law enforcement to build a strong case against Henley and Brady. This marked a turning point in the investigation. It transformed what were initially seen as separate disappearances into a coherent narrative of serial murder, ultimately leading to their conviction and life imprisonment. The trial began on April 19, 1966, at Chester Assize. It was a landmark event in British legal history. The proceedings were marked with intense scrutiny and emotional testimonies. David Smith's eyewitness account was central to the prosecution's case. The defense attempted to portray Henley as under Brady's influence, arguing she was coerced into participating in the crimes. However, the evidence painted a damning picture of her active involvement. Public reaction to the trial showed their horror, but also their fascination. The gruesome details revealed during the proceedings captivated the nation, with huge media coverage that ensured the case remained in the public eye. Newspapers and TV broadcasts provided daily updates, which fueled widespread outrage and disbelief at the brutality of the murders. The trial highlighted societal fears about the nature of evil and the vulnerability of children, which led to calls for harsher penalties for such heinous acts. Ultimately, both Henley and Brady were found guilty. Brady was convicted of 3 murders, while Henley was convicted of 2, with an additional charge of harboring Brady after the fact. They received life sentences, reflecting the severity and premeditated nature of their crimes. The judge emphasized the lack of remorse shown by both defendants, underscoring the need for both of them to be permanently removed from society. Their sentencing set a precedent for dealing with serial killers in the UK, reinforcing the notion that certain crimes warrant lifelong incarceration without parole. During their imprisonment, they both followed different paths. After her sentencing, Henley sought rehabilitation. She portrayed herself as a reformed prisoner. Over the years, she made several bids for parole, claiming remorse and a desire to contribute positively to society. However, her attempts were met with fierce public opposition, as the heinous nature of her crimes left an undeniable mark on the nation's consciousness. The families of the victims and the general public consistently opposed her release, ensuring her life sentence remained intact until her death in 2002. In contrast, Ian Brady showed non-interest in rehabilitation. He remained manipulative and uncooperative. He engaged in hunger strikes and legal battles to be transferred to a Scottish prison. Brady's refusal to disclose the location of Keith Bennett's body further exemplified his lack of remorse and continued psychological manipulation. The murders had a huge impact on the UK criminal justice system, particularly concerning life sentences and parole policies. The case highlights the need for clear guidelines on whole life orders, leading to reforms that ensure individuals convicted of particularly egregious crimes be denied parole indefinitely. These murders have been represented in books, films, and documentaries, reflecting the fascination and horror they bring. Numerous true crime books go into the psychological profiles of Myra Henley and Ian Brady, which offers insight into their motivations and the impacts of their crimes. Documentaries and films can focus on the perpetrator, while at the same time also examining the investigation and the trial. It highlights the meticulous police work and the emotional toll of the victims' families. Societal fascination with the Moors murders happens for many reasons. The sheer brutality and senselessness of the crimes, coupled with the betrayal of trust by seemingly ordinary individuals, it kind of challenges how we understand human nature. The involvement of a female perpetrator adds another layer of intrigue, as it defines traditional gender expectations regarding violent crime. Additionally, the unsolved element of Keith Bennett's missing remains keeps the case alive in public consciousness, serving as a haunting reminder of this crime and fueling ongoing interest and speculation. The Moors murders left a profound and lasting impact on British society and its criminal justice system. The case underscores the potential for evil in seemingly ordinary individuals. It promotes societal reflection on trust and safety. The case led to significant changes in how life sentences are administered, ensuring those guilty of heinous crimes face appropriate consequences. It also highlighted the importance of vigilance and the need for continual improvement in investigative techniques, such as forensic advancements and interagency cooperation. Ultimately, the legacy of these tragic events serves as a somber reminder of the need for justice and protection of the vulnerable. That's all I got for the Moors murders. Thank you for listening.